Hey, what up, Carl?
Wow, that's a brand new intro. I guess I haven't been watching the
Have you
stream
not
for a
seen that
bit.
one?
That's a new one. I like
Oh,
it.
nice. Thanks, man. Yeah, that's it's been so I mean we've probably been running that one for at least a few months now. But yeah, Kevin made that for us. He did all the animation himself, and big shout out to Nine Figure 999 for our the intro song that we've been using for now, coming on almost 3 years now. But yeah,
That's
I
great.
appreciate it, man.
No, of
Uh
course, I love it.
But dude, it's been a little bit minute. You guys got some serious updates since the last time we've had you on the channel. I think the last time we had you on was I think a few months ago for Power Packs when you guys
Yep.
were launching that. And yeah, now you guys are launching on VeVe. That's something.
We just keep the momentum, man. I think like we're builders at heart, and at the end of the day, it's really about continuing delivering for our audience, for our community, and we're just thankful. At the end of the day, we have a lot of supporters. Folks are really interested in our stories. I think for us,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we're a content company first, and so as much as folks can be attached to the different products out there, at core, we want people to relate to the stories that we're telling. And at the
Yeah.
same time, we want our creators to really lead us creatively as to where we're going. So we're blessed. I think we just have a great team. We have a lot of innovation, and I think where we are today is really about partnerships. And I think that's why this this is very relevant here for us
Mhm.
to even talk to you guys. You guys have been partners into what we're
Yeah.
doing. It's just
Yeah. Yeah, man.
a great journey together.
We're badge holders. We're studio badge holders. So
Awesome.
yeah, we've been following you guys since the beginning and plan to continue it, man. I mean, it's obviously you guys are so locked into not only the community and what comic collectors are looking for and what comic readers are looking for, but also, being able to figure out how to, web in the Web3 components in a creative way. And yeah, I just, that we're big fans. So excited to dive into talking a little bit about the drop. But my fellow co-host Sean is not able to join us today, but he's dropping in real quick from Twitter for a minute. But yeah, Sean is currently on set today. He's doing some recording. He actually has a real job besides doing this comics and crypto thing. So you know we
You
we're
are
holding down the
missed,
fort
John.
without him.
We miss you, and
We
and
miss you, buddy.
I miss my Batman cowl. I still have it
Yeah.
actually. How are those doing, by the way?
Backhouse, yeah, Backhouse. They've been doing some interesting stuff recently.
Nice.
I'd say like floor price is down a little bit on the original Backhouse, but they
Yeah.
released a new collection called the Legacy Cow
Good.
collection. Basically last month, and they're doing some pretty cool things with that. Where basically everybody got everybody got an identical Bat Cow to begin with, and then they're doing these crafting events where you can like basically craft that with an overdrive, which is another item, and create new variations of that one. So there's kind of going to be these different like splintered variations that are going to come out that have a bunch of different things going on with them. So yeah, they've been doing some pretty cool things, and involving the community and voting just like they have with the original Bat Cows. So yeah, I'm very much excited, and we got Costa in the audience agrees. Yeah, DC is definitely
Nice.
looking good right now.
No, DC. I'm a big fan of DC. I'm a original art collector.
Mhm.
I actually didn't realize this, but a lot of folks make fun of DC art, but I actually have like more DC art than I do Marvel art. And I
Really?
think I think nostalgia wise, I do definitely find myself in the world of like Batman, Azrael. Sort of Azrael is like one of
Yeah.
my favorite series of all time, and even Green Lantern. I think
Mhm.
even Kyle Rayner, like that was my guy.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just that's the one that resonated with me, and it's probably the version of Green Lantern I grew up with. So I don't know
Mhm.
why people crap on DC, but I love what DC's doing, and I think How are you feeling? Are you pro James Gunn,
Oh,
or
for sure. Yeah.
skeptical
Oh
of what he's
no,
gonna
I'm
pull
not.
off?
I'm not skeptical. If anybody's going to be able to kind of bring that magic, and we just need some excitement. I feel like in the DCU,
Agreed.
it's been a little dry, and it's been a little serious at times. I feel like over the last few years, so I think we need more of that like peacemaker energy.
Agreed. And it's not
At
like
least
they
that's
haven't
that's
been
what I want to see.
producing. They've been
No,
producing. It just never broke, right? Like every
no.
time a new one comes out, you're like, yeah, 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 and then it's just like, and then over
Yeah.
and over again. But you're right. Peacemaker really kind of broke it, but there was no follow up. I think that's
Mm-mm.
always been the issue for
Yeah.
DC. Like they're you're only as strong as your weakest link, and I think
Hmm.
often they allow so much of creative freedom without accountability that it's at a fault. Because I
Yeah.
think as a producer, you want to be able to guide your creative to deliver the best work, but Warner almost feel like they don't give a shit. It's like it's hit or miss because they don't give them any accountability or guidance. And so I think that's a huge challenge. But before we kind of got into this DC world, I was also going to say comics and crypto and 24/7 comics. I think why we hang out a lot is because we're also on the same trajectory as far as mission goes. We really bring these two worlds together. There's like
exactly
alike than not, truthfully. And I think when folks start conversating and people start crossing over, they recognize that, because I meet so many people in the VeVe universe who are collectors who told me like they didn't really collect physical comic books their whole life, but they found VeVe, they collecting comics on VeVe, then all of a sudden they say, oh, I should walk into a comic book shop and see what the physical version of this digital book that I own look like. And they started collecting slabs and other physical comics. So I think there's this really like symbiotic relationship between the two worlds that hopefully, I think it was like playing like off the screen like a couple years ago, but now like this. It's like
slowly moving
films, right? We're here already. But
we just got to get everybody else in there. Exactly. Well, so we actually have another special guest joining us today who just got here. We got the one and only Diesel Dan Comics.
Woo! Diesel Dan.
What up, Diesel Dan? Great to meet you, man. How's it going?
You're good. Thank you for the invite.
Of course. Yeah.
So guys, this was a little last minute. So thank you, Diesel Dan. I thought he was the first guy that came to mind because we're here to talk about Evermind. And when we launched our Kickstarter campaign, Dan was like such a proponent for us. Like he was like an evangelist going out there saying like this is how comic book publishing should be done. He was like hosting our interviews. And so Spencer, when Corey couldn't make it today, I was like, all right, you know what? I gotta see if Dan can make it, because he would be such a great guy to be almost like, it's almost like, Dan, we've come a long way. And like, we've done the Kickstarter. We're delivering this week. Things are shipping out this week. And then we also are announcing our VeVe launch tomorrow, which is awesome because, just a couple months ago, VeVe, they announced the day in, day out with Marvel. So I think for us, for the first time, we'll be an independent comic launching on VeVe in a similar way.
Yeah, it's so huge, man.
So do you guys know each other?
It's awesome. I hold butt on the way here because I told you I was on my way home. I literally got in with like 1 minute to spare. I'm like, I barely just missed it. But I'm here.
So, we got you here. Awesome. But yeah, so cool. Dan, maybe you could give us a quick intro about yourself, just for our audience, for those the people who aren't familiar with you and your channel and your content and all the stuff you do.
I'm Dan, Diesel Dan Comics. I make content on Instagram, TikTok, all kinds of short format type content, right? So I basically try to have a commentary on just the community of comic books. Always, talk about all kinds of comics, whether it's indie, new Marvel, DC, all kinds of topics, news. If there's like a breaking news type thing, I'll talk about that. I'm all over the place.
Nice. Just whatever you find interesting and you want to talk about.
Whatever I find interesting, and whether it's breaking news or just commentary on the comic book community as we see it online and at cons. I like to talk on it. Maybe, it was a positive. I want to talk positively about the community and comic books.
Good. Well, I'm glad to see you're embracing the short form content instead of this long form crap we're trying to pull off right now.
I love the streams. I love both.
I love the streams.
No, it's great. I'm just not good at long format.
That's why we bring on guests. We get other people to come on and fill the space for us. You don't have to work as hard. you just get really good at your interviewing skills.
Yeah. Right.
I look forward to these hangouts because honestly, like sometimes it's just hard. Like I go to a comic book shop once a week, and you can only talk about comics for an hour or two there. Then at that point, you're like getting in the way of the guys trying to operate. But times like this, we're all here passionate about the comics we love, the art we collect, the books we're reading, and we could literally sit down and like talk about it and have guys like Costa and even Sean while he's at work joining us.
Yeah,
I think streaming is the best.
It's awesome. Well, maybe we could do a quick intro now. So, obviously I'm very, very familiar with 24/7, and I feel like I've been reading every iteration of Evermind, since the beginning, and all the changes that have come through it. But maybe you could give our audience who's here listening and watching today, who might not know, a background on what you guys are building at 24/7 more broadly, and then what the drop tomorrow on VeVe is actually going to look like.
Sure. My name is Carl Choi. I'm the publisher for 24/7 Comics. Welcome today to the stream. I'm excited for you to hear more about as we dive into this. And 24/7 Comics is really about being a creator-led entity. We are a creative studio / publishing company, and things have changed. And I think the comic book industry just haven't been updated for 30 years. And the reason we even started this publishing company was because we were friends of the creators. And when we started talking to a lot of them, we realized they really only had two paths to go. One was the big two. They're told what to write, what to draw. They get to, don't get me wrong, they get to draw some of our favorite characters. But on the other end, they could go do the creator-owned thing, which they take all the risk. Now, the moment of when we realized we need to step in was, I didn't know that 99% of creator-owned comics do not generate enough revenue to pay back the creators for their time. And so a lot of them just gets really discouraged. So that's why a lot of times you'll see someone leave Marvel, DC, do their first creator book, and then they disappear from Earth because they're probably fully traumatized, laying on the couch with their thumb in their mouth, right? Because they're just so traumatized because they have to spend like 2 years of their life marketing, promoting, drawing, developing the book, and not get any returns. So what we did was we partnered with our creator team, and we said, all right, what is the happy medium? And we developed this partnership publishing, which basically means we are covering them on Marvel DC rates, but then their creative team has a permanent upside to the IP. And so we're partners and we're going along for the ride together. That's kind of why, kind of diving into Evermind, you saw how bullish Sean, Daniel, they were present for all of it. It wasn't like one interview and they disappear. Even now, at every stage, they're part of it because they're partners of this IP. When it hits the big screen, when we make T-shirts, everyone's getting a piece, and it's going to be a win-win. So, it's a model. It's a much longer-term play because as a business, that means we have to sacrifice the ability to grow fast. We would have to grow slower because we are actually dividing resources with the creators in a more aggressive way and a more generous way. But to me, I believe in the long haul. I feel like we are building a legacy company. And in order to do that, you need to have partners. And these partners are the creative forces that are building the foundation for the IP that's going to make this company. So yeah, that's a little bit about 24/7 Comics. And today we're here to talk about Evermind dropping on VeVe tomorrow.
Yes. Here we go. Great intro. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this many times, but yeah, just what you guys do to promote creators, especially both visual and written and all formats. It's commendable, and it's what's needed in this space, and we need a new publishing model. So I'm glad that that we have stewards like you who are actually kind of taking the risk and doing this for everyone else. Because I trust you guys, and I know you guys are going to be able to build it.
Not looking to just be a flash in the pan, to be a legacy publisher. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's funny. Spencer, did you say
you're going to be hearing big three soon? Big three.
No, I'm a big fan of being a steward because I feel like I don't own the creators. I don't own them. I own their lives. If they
but you're the platform that enables them.
Exactly. Like if they're gonna be with us, I want them to want to be on this journey with us. I don't want them to feel like they're forced because they're based on contract. And then the other thing you said earlier, which was really, really thanks for sharing, is you've read very many iterations of Evermind, even when it used to be a different title. And we really adopted the Web3 ethos of inviting our community along. I think, Dan, you've read the early editions too. And I don't know if you guys saw the more recent ones. I don't know if you guys got the digital PDF from Kickstarter, but there's 3 or 4 new pages now because we got feedback from the community. We had a few other editorial consultants like Kevin Van Hook, who's the creator of Bloodshot. Sean brought him in and he gave some insight, and we have drawing a few new pages. What other publishing company allows that type of development program to take place? For me, I think it's so important because often it's almost like when it comes to your relationship with a story as a kid, like growing up, I would always read something and I either love it or sometimes I'll be like, oh, I wish they did this, right? And I think for me, like I want to be the publisher that actually hears that and then say, you know what, they wish for this. There's probably something right. I mean, there's some bad ideas out there too, right?
Sure.
But there's also a lot of great ideas, right? And so really implementing those and curating those is our job. But our journey is really, being able to work with our creators, work with our community, and then really produce the best comics we can.
Totally. Yeah, and on that note, just the virtue of you building in the digital space enables you to be able to actually make those changes. If you're printing, it's like that causes, a whole bunch of different issues, and then you have, multiple editions and things like that in the physical space. But it's a lot easier just to update a digital version and release that than have to go through with publishing a whole nother physical run.
Yeah, in fact, our big vision and kind of like the long-term side is, and my team always thinks I'm freaking crazy and insane, is I think all comics should be free. So if I can, I would give away all our comics. I feel like there are other ways to monetize.
Yeah.
I think the literature itself should be free and should really like benefit the secondary market, so that people can really invest in these books in a way that helps them travel. And so that's a big kind of a vision for me. When we get there, I don't know, but I do feel like it's going to take some time, because as a company, we have to pay the bills too, right? So
of course,
what you'll see on our digital reader is older versions of the book, so that people get to read what it is. And also then if they buy the new version, they kind of see, oh, wow, it's changed a lot. And often it's based on community feedback and editorial feedback.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm curious what in your long-term vision of, hopefully never having to charge for comics again, but what are those other revenue streams that you envision coming in?
I think digital collectibles is going to get more fun, obviously, with like Apple getting the VR now, or AR, the opportunity to sell 360 digital holograms. That's the future, man. Like something that you can interact with just as much as you interact with Funko Pop. But the difference is you don't need all that shelf space behind you, Dan. Like you just pull it up and show us, right? And so I think that's the difference. Yeah, me too, right? Like all my arsenal, all my stuff here. I'm like, dang, one day I could open my palm and see my art piece pop up like this, right? It shows up, and then we can enjoy it just as much. So I think we'll get there, because I think we are probably like mid-age when it comes to like exposure to digital collectibles. But I feel like a lot of the kids growing up these days, they live in their phone. They don't really need physical stuff. I think there's always going to be a place for physical stuff, but when it comes to mass consumption, it's going to be digital. And I think for us to get back into where we were in the 90s as a comic book community and collective, we have to adopt this digital aspect of things. And yeah, that's kind of my vision for it.
That's cool. No, I like that model, because it's like, I know the incentives are all aligned on building out the IP post, the comic release. Like the comic is kind of like the baseline story, sets the stage and establishes the universe, and then everybody's on board together because incentives are aligned to build that thing and make collectibles and get an option for TV shows or whatever else that you can do with the IP. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I also feel like the timeline from development to adaptation it's going to shorten. That window is going to shorten over time. And so as we develop content, you could actually forecast how fast you could take it to adaptation, and if that timeline shortens, you'll be able to propel the comic storyline forward faster than ever as well. So imagine instead of taking 20 years for the boys to hit the big screen, it takes 5, right? That totally changes the whole dynamics.
So you actually have a team who's working directly towards that from the get-go. Yeah.
We are already. I mean, that's the kind of industry I come from. With that said, I mean, I could talk a little bit about Evermind.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
It's co-created with Sean Chen, who you may have seen on one of the longest Iron Man runs. I'm a huge fan of Sean because he had Valiant. He was at Valiant. He had Ryan the Future Force #9 that sold like 700,000 copies. And he was one of the young talent, young stars. But over the years, he got a little jaded from the comic book industry. He took 10 years off. I met him in the advertising world, and then came together and welcomed him back in the comics through Evermind. While he was drawing, he was asking me for a visual reference for who this lead character was, and I sent him Daniel Wu, and I remember it's Daniel Wu, and I said, draw him kind of like him, but a little older. And so he did. And then what I didn't know was how much like Daniel Wu he was gonna look. And so at some point I realized, oh my god, I better like run this by Daniel.
Make sure he's cool with this, yeah.
Yeah, and it just happened where like we were just having a conversation, hanging at Daniel's house and having a conversation about his future. And I was like, well, what kind of role would you want to play 10 years from now? and he kind of shared some ideas, and I said, there's a cool like father and daughter story that we're working on, and I showed it to him. He read it and he was like, dude, I'm in. And so ever since then, like, we've been developing it together. But what Evermind is really about is following the path of this world-renowned scientist called, his name is Lucas Zhang. And what he does is he has lost faith in what evolution will provide for the humankind. And the reason for that is because he's developed a way for our consciousness to be transferred into androids. So that's a really interesting, moment there, because all of a sudden you have multiple industries trying to, monetize on something like this in their own ways. So two industries backs him because this stuff costs a lot of money to develop. One is the American amusement park industry. The other one is American military. So you can imagine these two worlds uses the technology in very different ways. I mean, how many times have we walked into Disneyland and was greeted by someone our grandfather's age, right? That's like the like ultimate retirement place, right? And then military, you could get very imaginative in all the wars that we would love to wage on the world. But it's really when those two worlds collide, with a third war with his daughter being that she doesn't believe in what he's doing, and in fact is protesting against it. That's kind of when all shit falls apart for him, and we're off on this adventure. And that's really what Evermind's about. And ultimately it is a father and daughter story, and that's why Daniel is so bullish about it, and has really been behind the project and has really been showing his face. I mean, so much where people are kind of like, wow, he's actually really involved, not like he just record a couple videos. He's been very active in all the videos. He was leaving last, I think, Wednesday to shoot a movie, and on Tuesday he recorded a whole live stream of us for VeVe. And so, things like that, it's been great. And so far, knock on wood, the thesis has been very fruitful. And after this drop tomorrow, we're about to announce our next Kickstarter campaign as well.
Awesome. Love to hear it, man. Well, so I guess on the note of VeVe, I guess I would love to hear about kind of how that partnership came to be, and how you guys ended up publishing on VeVe.
Actually, Dan, since you're newer to kind of the digital world, what do you know about VeVe? I'm kind of curious.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
So I know, it's a digital space where you can buy your comics, but it becomes a collectible. So that's as much as I know, but I don't know too much. I'm a big physical collector. I mean, I have probably 5,000 plus physical books.
Right.
Nice.
I do read digital as well, but I've never ventured into VeVe. So I would love to know like how that partnership developed. And I kind of thought maybe it was more Marvel, more DC that was on VeVe. So for an indie publisher to be on VeVe, that's like, I'm like, tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe set the stage a little bit, kind of just to, I guess, what VeVe is and what they've been working on for the last few years. So they're, at heart, they're a digital collectibles platform built with, blockchain technology using NFTs. It's set up currently as kind of a Web 2.5 platform, so you don't actually have to have a wallet or anything like that, or worry about managing private keys. It's just a basic username and password login with 2FA in your email. But it's a platform where you can buy, trade, and sell collectibles. So that's on the collectible side of things, like digital statues, like basically 3D statues, and what you see like the DC Black and White series, like they actually have that emulated in the digital version. So they actually have digital editions of those exact same statues. But there's hundreds, probably at this point thousands of collectibles on the app. But then a couple, probably it looks like August 21, maybe. I might be getting that wrong. I think that sounds right though. 21 or 22. Marvel, they basically announced that Marvel Comics was being released on the app for the first time. So they released Marvel Comics 1. That was the first ever comic that they released. And there was like 60,000 editions for that initial one.
Wow.
But so basically it's a digital comic that you can read in the app. So there's a reader in the app. You can also read it in augmented reality as well. So you can actually basically place the book in augmented reality in your physical space, and you can actually like leaf through the book and interact with it. You can zoom in on it and cool. See it really up close, which is super cool. And then they have variant covers for each book. So every book has 5 different covers. Usually the main, so there's, I guess, 5 different rarities. There's a common rarity, uncommon, rare, ultra rare, and secret rare, going from less scarce to more scarce. But generally speaking, the common cover which has the most editions, is the original cover that was released with the comic when it originally came out. And then usually there's some like color offset covers, and then there's a VeVe exclusive cover. So there's actually a brand new cover that is produced exclusively for the digital space. So it's some artists have actually hand drawn them and then uploaded the digital. Some of them are digital first artists. It's just depends who makes it and how they make it. But yeah, so basically every cover has or every book has its own like VeVe original cover. That's so it's basically kind of like a flexible version that's exclusive to the digital space, and then there's a secret rare, which is very limited and usually uses like an in-panel art piece for that. But yeah, so some people think of them as reproductions as the physicals. Some people think of them as like facsimiles. I like to think of them as basically just like it's a new form of collecting, and it's just a new way to invest in that original IP and that original story. So look at something like Marvel Comics 1. There's only like something like 70 editions total on the CGC census. That like those are all the books that exist that we know of in the world total. So if you still want to collect that book, now you're able to do that in the digital space as well. And now there's 60,070 total editions in the world of this book. So yeah, that's kind of the way I like to.
In augmented reality, the book that I get to have in front of me, does it have spine ticks and like tape on the spine and like torn pages or anything?
they don't have it quite like that. DC Comics though, they do have stuff like that.
Really, they do conditions on theirs.
Yeah, well, they do the conditions. Yeah, I don't think they've released their like AR reader yet. But yeah, they actually do. Their rarities are different. So for the DC Comics on the Candy digital platform, they release basically so 5 rarities, but instead of different cover variants, it's basically just different like levels of degradation, basically. So like like so the highest level is like I think it's like an 8.0 or something like that, and then it just gets like progressively worse. So you look at like the common and it does look beat up, and you see tape and you see like pieces ripped out of the cover and but they're actually but that's something that they actually have artists that are doing that and actually creating that degradation from scratch. It's not like they're just like taking a scan of a book. So yeah, they're doing some pretty cool stuff on the digital comic sides. They have both DC and Marvel. But now kind of moving into like the independent stuff. VeVe is now starting to release independent comics, which now we got Carl and 24/7 platform, which is super exciting.
What a great rundown, Spencer. And I think one of the things I love about VeVe too is that opportunity to re-release these old books where you have an ASM 300 or you have like a Spider-Man #1. Those things are like vintage books that a lot of us is a little bit out of reach, but you could actually own like one of 2,000 copies on VeVe, and that's actually reflective of like what you said, like CGC census, and that to me I think is one of the most powerful ways of utility. And I think even seeing what David Yu, one of the co-founder and CEO of VeVe, and what he's done with the app and the type of partnerships he's brought in, I just feel like it's really the place to go, and they were really ahead of their times because obviously we all played in like the not Dan. I don't think you played much in the Web3 like NFT world, but at its height, Spencer and I were deep in it. But I think David saw kind of beyond that and said I'm not gonna play in this pool. We're gonna create our own pool and put a wall garden so that people feel safer and often it's more securitized. And so in doing that, they were able to truly be good stewards of the Marvel IP and ensure the community stayed around. And at the same time, allow them to cultivate the collectors, the readers, the speculators all in this one place. And now that, a lot of those markets has kind of faded away, VeVe still stands, right? Which I think is one of the most powerful things.
Yeah, and so something I actually forgot to mention. So they just released the VeVe Comics platform like last month, which is they're releasing digital versions of contemporary comics on the same day that they're released in the comic book shops. So any new Marvel comic that's released in a comic book store, same day it's going to be released in the digital version, and they're going to have basically there's a limited edition run that has those collectible covers and all that, and then there's also an open edition run that is like unlimited numbers that you can get. But yeah, so it's kind of cool that they're now alongside every single physical release, they're now doing digitals, which I think just creates so much more accessibility and allows people to actually read comics more easily. Because I mean, there's so many people around the world that don't have access to a comic book store, and for them to get to get a physical comic and to be able to read a run from start to back, it's pretty hard to do. But if you're in the Philippines or something like that, and you want to read 10 issues of a comic, you can now get all of those in digital format and read them anywhere in the world, and actually still get them on the day that they're released, not have to wait months or however long it takes for you to get that issue wherever you live.
And Dan, have you seen VeVe's presence at Comic Cons before?
I was actually going to bring that up. I was at San Diego Comic Con, and someone was streaming for VeVe, and they came to the short box booth, and we got to show them like on their live stream, show them like, which books or you be talking about, and I showed them Static #1, of course, Milestone Static. I'm like, big fan of Milestone, but I sold them on that. I'm like, check out Static, and here's these, and so I'm familiar. I'm a little bit familiar.
Might have been Sean and Spencer that was streaming.
It could have been us. Who knows? No, we usually don't live stream during the cons. It's a little too much to try to do stuff live. We just record.
I could be wrong.
It was probably just somebody else from the VeVe community, or somebody who worked for the team or whatever. But they have a huge presence at Comic-Con. They're they've shared a booth with Marvel for basically every Marvel or every New York and San Diego Comic-Con for the last like 2 or 3 years now, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how far is that going back?
There at San Diego.
Yeah. So even like, I think why I want to point that out is because often, we look at VeVe as a digital platform, but traditional comic fans have a lot, they have to thank VeVe too, because I don't know if Marvel would have boofed if VeVe didn't support them. And Marvel is a very heavily protected brand. And for them to put VeVe side by side at the booth, that means VeVe
huge vote of confidence.
Huge vote of confidence and prominent role in making that happen. So I do feel like over time, with this kind of great stewardship that they've taken for the Marvel IP, and obviously now that Marvel is working with them on day in day out, it's becoming the go-to trusted digital source for them. I think even more so than any of the other comic book reading apps we've seen before, because I think it's actually creating a sustainable line of revenue and has become a strong co-marketing partner for Marvel, not only digitally but also in the physical form.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. So like, I don't think we ever got to the question of how did the partnership with 24/7 and VeVe start.
It's true. We never got there.
Really organically, man. To be honest, we met David casually, actually in front of the short box booth of all places.
Nice.
He walked up and he was looking at the stuff, and then we all, kind of started talking to him, and then, one of our staff members ended up getting his card and then gave it to me, and then I scanned it, because early on when we were looking at what we were doing in Web3, I think VeVe was always on the radar. There was like, always multiple like Palm and everyone that's on the radar. But I think like as we started kind of getting to know the different communities and what's going on, VeVe just felt very consistent and very, very strong, and felt like they're like a AAA operation, right? And so it was always in the back of my mind to talk to David, but I don't recall what the prompt was, but somehow either him and I ran to we had some crossover in like comic art. Like someone was talking about, I think it was like Frank Miller's rep talking about David, how he picked up some art, and then I'm like, oh hey, like I'm an art collector too, and then I just decided randomly to message David, and we literally, I was like, hey dude, I think you're an art collector. He's, oh you are, I am too, and then we hopped on a Zoom. And we literally talked for like 2 hours.
Just showing off. Look what I got. Look what I got.
He did. We were literally like, like, Ricardo Federici is a big fan. He's a big fan of him. And then I pulled out a piece I got from him. And then, we just kept like showing each other stuff. And then I think that was where it started. It was more like connecting on the passion of nerddom first.
Because he's such a big collector, right? Before any of this stuff, like he just loves this stuff.
He owns LGS in New Zealand. I have LGS in Colorado, and so we just really related on like so many levels. And so we kept diving into all these topics, from TCGs, from comic books to comic art. Then we got into digital, and then we would just stay in touch. And then we were just kind of like, how do we work together? And one of the things that I kind of started backing away from was a lot of the technology side of things, because at the end of the day, like every company, you can only be great at one or two things. And our team has always been built on the foundation of our relationship with our creators. And what we found ourselves doing was, in service to the technology and the kind of Web3 community out there, we were not doing what we had said we were going to do at our best. And so we kind of pulled back on those pieces and went back to focusing on our creators, and decided we're just going to let things roll out. And one of the ideas that David and I talked about was, hey, what if we actually release our books on VeVe like Marvel and DC does, right? And so he championed us through the process, and we worked with their team, set some dates, and then here we are, man. Tomorrow, it's all happening now.
Tomorrow at 8 a.m. PST on the VeVe Digital Collectibles app.
I remember now. There was an idea. It was during our Kickstarter campaign. It was just finished, and then David actually pitched the idea. He said, what if everyone who backed the tiers that include a digital PDF got a VeVe comic book instead? Ooh. And I was like, oh, sure, that's a great idea, because I always kind of saw PDF as kind of like, but dude, you get a VeVe comic, that's pretty cool.
And they got the reader built in. They've got the technology. It's
exactly. So we just made that announcement in our private Kickstarter group that everyone will be assigned a code, and then it's already like allocated. So we have 365 backers, and so 365 copies is already allocated, and it's random. It's randomized in rarity as well, but they also can redeem until November 2nd. So it gets dropped back on the market in November 2nd. But they get a little bit more time, because we don't want them to come in and sold out, within the first 5 seconds, and then they don't get theirs. So we actually reserve these copies for our Kickstarter backers. And going forward, that's pretty much going to be the cadence. We have our next Kickstarter coming, and the digital tier will now include a VeVe collectible. And we're going to start stacking on top of that, because we've always had designed different types of collectibles. So you'll see we have some surprises for Evermind number 2, so on and so on. But we did a umbrella deal with VeVe, where now they are going to be releasing our digital releases. So you guys heard it here first.
Nice. Dropping alpha.
Yep.
Dude, that's I figured that it was going to be a little bit of a longer term partnership than just this initial comic, but yeah, glad to hear that that's the way it's going. Congrats, man. That's
we have about 30. So we have 10 original IPs over the last 2 years that's been developed and signed, and we have about 36 original books finished already. Meaning, drawn, colored, lettered. Most publishers, when they hear this, they go, "Carl, you're freaking crazy." Yeah. But I'm also a fan, man. I don't like to wait for my comics. I want my comics to be done before we drop. So zero goes by the time we do our Kickstarter, all 6 books are done. And so I want to be able to ship, and I want this tight timeline going forward where we're going to be able to ship books as we fill these Kickstarters, so that the fans can immediately have it in their hands. And so, wish me luck. It's a lot of moving parts, but I think we've spent enough time getting ahead of the game now to be able to have enough books now to feed a behemoth like VeVe, and feed our upcoming Kickstarter community as well.
That's awesome.
So you kind of already answered a question. You mentioned it really briefly, that you are going to have different rarities for VeVe. Can you touch on like what your limit is, or what different rarities you're going to have?
Yeah, I think we are. We want to just be realistic. We're not a Marvel book. We're nobodies. Who are we? Like, let's be real. But Sean Chen is a big name. Daniel Wu is a big name. So we spoke with David, and we said, what's like a good number where we know it'll get enough of a community out there, but not too high, not too low, because I do want to sell at that velocity. So it's 3,800 copies for number 1. And the 3,800 copies, roughly about half of them, about 1,500 will be the Sean Chen cover. So the middle one is the Sean Chen cover. Yep. And then there's going to be an uncommon, which is around 988 copies, is the Bella Ratchet one, which is the one on the left of Evermind, the middle cover. Then you go to rare, which is the DK run, which is the one on the right of Evermind cover, the first one. And then the ultra rare is going to be Jim Mahfood cover, which is all the way on the left. That guy is such an amazing artist. And then one of my favorite artists is Mr. Matteo Scalera, which is like the secret rare, which is all the way on the right. I highly recommend you guys grab the secret rare. Speaking of alpha, I really highly recommend it.
You got some plans for it.
So, but not only is because it's a freaking beautiful art, like, so the world of Evermind, it's literally your fault. This amusement park has like a kind of a dark underground side of it, where during the day these gorillas are, you know, dressed up as like Bobo the gorilla. They're kind of like the Mickey Mouse. But because the way Sean thought about the world and the elements surrounding these androids is that they're like airplanes. Airplanes should never stop. They you know, when the passengers deboard, the next group boards, and it just keeps going, right? That's how he sees these androids. So while we all go to sleep after a full day at the amusement park, these gorillas strips down to their kind of mech bots, and they go underground into this place called Underworld. And the female bots become, you know, basically service workers, and then the gorilla bots become UFC arena fighters, right? So there's like this underground world, and Mateo he fully leaned into kind of the Britneys of the underworld in a big way. So I love that cover because you know, one of the things for us too is I miss the 90s, and you know, I think it's not just the times and the nostalgia, but like there was like a really relevant role for comic books. For me, it was about reading up. It's like there's something naughty about opening the pages of X-Men and you see Psylocke leaning there in her swimsuit, and there's something like cool about watching Wolverine slash someone's head off, right? And I feel like those were the things that like pulled us back over and over again. And then after a while, like now, you know, I was talking to an artist at OAX last year, this past January, and he was telling me, you know, he's working on Wolverine, and he spent a lot of time drawing this flashback scene where like Wolverine, Sabretooth, Maverick, they're like in their like uniforms on a tank, and they're kind of like, you know, winding down, and there's one smoking a cigar, one smoking a cigarette, and then Marvel edited them. And so it's like, he said he had to take all those out, but I'm like, dude, like, what's the big deal? That's such a big part of their characters, right? And so I think, you know, I think it's time for creators to just tell the stories they want to tell.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much what we're here to do, is help them steward that. I mean, obviously, we're here also to protect them, so we do advise them on certain things. But at the end of the day, man, like some of these stories just need to be told in their rawest form. And I love how Mateo just like embraced it. Both Mateo and DK, I think they love that underworld moment side of things, and really lean into it. So
yeah, those are definitely the darkest of the two covers. So yeah, I believe it. That's awesome. Well, Carl, maybe so for the people who, you know, want to get involved with the comic tomorrow and pick up an issue, and excited about that, but then want to dive a little bit deeper into the 24/7 ecosystem after that, what other ways can people get involved?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think for us, we spent some time on Twitter for many years because we're very digital first. But what we find the most engagement these days has been our Instagram and our YouTube. So we are working really hard to start building more content. We're experimenting a ton of stuff. So we've been recording with Nerdy Barbie and myself, doing streams with folks. And so we're doing some streams. We're doing some recorded videos. I've been doing, I just came back from C2E2. We shot some content there. We're going to feature the Bad Idea panel. So it's Dinesh, who's former publisher of Valiant. They did a really fun panel there. So we shot it, and we're going to put that up. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. We want to grow that subscriber base and really like continue having a reason to feed that audience. And then second, just go to our newsletter, 247comics.com. There's a newsletter sign up. You can sign up there and then sign up for an account, and then you can actually read comics for free. And if you like the comics, you don't like the comics, just send us a note. Let us know. We want to know, because a lot of these comics that we put up there is really for us to get some audience feedback and overall vibes, and directionally it'll help us figure out where we could go next. So all input is taken very seriously.
Awesome.
Is that the best way to contact you to give feedback? Is responding to that newsletter?
Yeah, you can respond to newsletter or like me, Dan. I'm very active on my socials as well. So DM
Yeah.
me personally, DM the 24/7 Comics Instagram, email me at 24/7carl at 24/7comics.com. We're just human beings, man. Like we're not trying to build any kind of corporate infrastructure here yet. We're here really to
Yeah.
to build with the community, and hopefully we could do something new because I think, after the pandemic, things have changed for all of us, right? I think, we're all not like, I mean, not as much going in the office anymore. Most of the time, I hear maybe 2 or 3 days at most, but the 9 to 5 life is out the door. And so I hope we could organically grow our community and also be able to, welcome people who are passionate about the stories that we're telling to being our extended team members as well.
Love it. Well, Carl, before we close out, I guess, is there any final words or anything you want to say to people who, I guess, are either excited about the drop or maybe people who are maybe on the fence about getting involved tomorrow?
Yeah, I think this is a perfect opportunity to check out VeVe. David Yu and his team has done a great job building a great platform. So all you gotta do is go to vv.me, sign up for an account, and then be there. I think at 8 a.m. right PST for the drop and 11 a.m. EST. And yeah, Dan, you haven't done VeVe yet, I don't think. So definitely give it a shot, and maybe you
Tomorrow's
could
the day to
share your
try.
experience on
Tomorrow's
Instagram.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be a cool thing to do. Yeah.
yeah, that's a cool
I
thing. Like
will
my
100% support Carl on 24/7.
Thank you, Dan. No, Dan's been like a proponent, huge evangelist for us, and a huge encourager too. Because at the end of the day, like we want feedback, and he came to us like, "You guys are going on the right route. Great, gives us more encouragement and more feel going down this route." And so definitely go on VeVe, check it out. And if you're a Kickstarter, thank you so much. We do have a page right now. I don't know if you, Spencer, you could bring up Kickstarter Zero Ghosts. It's our next Kickstarter. A way to help would be really just to go to this page and click notify me on launch. So between now and when we launch in July, we want to go for about 300. And that's like the magic number because it will help us when we launch get featured on the front page. So this book was actually our first book, and it's basically by Justin Jordan and Brian Chang. Justin Jordan is Luther Strode fame. He did Spread. He also was a big writer at DC. And then Brian Chang, he was formerly of Top Cow, worked on Witchblade, Darkness, and then he also spent the last 10 years on Star Wars. In fact, he was about to quit comics, and we convinced him to come back to create this world with us. So if you guys can, just take a second, go over there, sign in your Kickstarter account, and click notify me on launch. And Wooba had a question as well. Should I answer that? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. My background I didn't start in comics. Dude, if I knew there was a career in comics, I would have started way sooner. But perhaps because I didn't, it helped me because now I'm seeing things at a different perspective. And a lot of it has to do with me coming to America. I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture, and it was comics that actually brought me into a community where I found friends. And then as I got old enough, as I found girls and cars, I got into a different world. I started promoting parties, nightlife, and then found myself managing talent that I met in the space. So through the realm of talent management, I had the opportunity to represent this rapper who was the first Chinese rapper to sign a major record label named MC Jin. And working with him, we traveled to Hong Kong, opened an office, and that's where I met Daniel. And at that time, it was very interesting because when we met Dan, we were just really friends. And then what happened was Jackie Chan was his manager. And Jackie ended up moving his operation. Cool. Yeah. So Jackie moved his operation to China. And there was a bit of a transitional period. To be honest, I didn't really know what we were doing. Daniel and I were just kind of like, Daniel was like, you want to just rep me? Because we're all going to go back to the States. Because that's kind of the conversation. Like Jin, Daniel, and I want to come back to the States. And Daniel was like, I need a manager. I was like, sure. And, it was really funny because his wife would always make fun of us, almost like we were the two guys on Entourage bumbling through Hollywood, and like we were rep by CAA, but they were making these intros, but I had no idea what the hell we were doing. And eventually we were able to find him a legitimate manager that, helped him on, to really monetize, expand on what he did with Into the Badlands. And then I moved out of the talent management space and moved into producing, and then worked under a producer for a number of years before I got my own deal. So that's a little story of how I met Daniel. So we've remained friends. We've remained development partners. We'll find IP and we'll like kind of try to develop stuff together. But it's hard. I mean, it's very entrepreneurial when it comes to the feature film side. TV is a little bit more corporate, so you could dive into TV and have a 9-to-5 job. But when it comes to feature films, it's all about packaging. And every film that you're producing is like a new company you're launching, and you have to find a buyer for it, a distributor for it, and really try to figure out how it fits within the ecosystem. And it's kind of like startups. Timing is everything. So it's been a great journey, and I'm happy to say I have lifelong friends with a lot of the creators I've worked with. And so yeah, it's awesome to have Daniel along for the ride.
Such a good story. Awesome. Well, Carl, this has been so fun chatting with you. Diesel Dan, it's been great to meet you. Thank you for coming on as a last minute, literally within 30 minutes.
Awesome.
rushing home to jump on.
That Dan brings to the table, man. This guy,
that's some dedication.
He's so positive, so down, and that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Spencer.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, so tomorrow at 8 a.m. PST, Evermind #1 drops on VeVe Digital Collectibles. Make sure you jump on and grab it. I believe if you have MCP points, you can wager some points and get yourself on the wait list and hopefully get yourself a better shot at getting it. I know I'll definitely be going for it. I probably be buying a few off the secondary market too, because I just want to support everything you guys are building, and I just want to keep seeing you guys succeed. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Carl. And I guess one last plug on our end. I don't think we have a giveaway running at the moment, but I will plug our newsletter as well. So we do a bi-weekly newsletter where we basically just do a rundown of both the digital and the physical collectibles market. So we talk about a number of different things. We do a blog post, where we have a number of guest bloggers or guest writers writing blogs for us from the community. We also write our own blogs about different topics in the digital and physical collecting space. We highlight some of our content and other people's content. We highlight big notable sales and industry updates. We highlight upcoming auctions for significant things that are coming up. And then we do exclusive giveaways where this is something that we're starting, and we actually just kind of ran our first iteration of it in our last newsletter. Is this concept we're calling it basically read to earn, where we're keeping track of all the times that you interact with our newsletter. So every single time that you open it, every single time you click on a link, that is an interaction, and that extra interaction gives you extra entries into our giveaways. So basically, the more you interact with the newsletter, the better chances you have to win something. So the last newsletter, we gave away a Spider-Boy #4 comic, physical comic, which was we gave a variant edition, which was, I think, is the rare variant, which was released on VeVe about a month or so ago. So so that's going out to a very lucky winner, and then we're gonna have a new one coming for the next newsletter. So basically, all you have to do to get entered into these giveaways in the newsletters is just be subscribed. So yeah, that's my plug. There we go.
Comics and crypto. Let's go.
Woo!
Let's go. All right. Well, thank you both so much. Make sure that everyone you follow both Carl. Make sure you follow 24/7. Make sure you follow Diesel Dan. Support everything they're doing. They're all doing incredible things for the comic space. And yeah, like and subscribe. We'll talk to you guys all in the next one. See ya.